welcome back to Honest Books, and today we're going to be doing a book review on The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. So if you don't know what The Darkest Part of the Forest is, I'll actually do a small synopsis for you right now, and then I'll get into my book review slash book discussion. The Darkest Part of the Forest is actually a fairy book. I know, right? 2 fairy books in 2 weeks. So this one is actually a more darker side of this type of thing, hence the title, The Darkest Part of the Forest. So this fairy book actually is surrounded by a prince that has been stuck inside a glass coffin inside the woods for pretty much decades. So people have been like watching him, talking to him, throwing parties on him. It's pretty much a tourist trap. And so yeah, this kid has been stuck inside a coffin for decades. And one day he actually becomes free and no one knows why. They think like his curse has maybe finally ended and he's actually out to get everyone. But that's not exactly the case. This book was actually really interesting. It was really good. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I gave it about a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was very good for what it is because it is a standalone novel, and so that's pretty much something you have to put into perspective. I thought the ending wasn't as strong as I would hope it would have been, but you know, I really enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a really good book, and I would recommend it to anyone that enjoys like fairy books and like darker storylines and like characters who are like really interesting and like kick ass. I enjoyed this book, so let's get into a little bit more of a review. Also, this is the point where you need to stop watching if you haven't read it because I'm going into a lot of details. Lots of spoilers are going to happen right after this point, so watch out. So The Darkest Part of the Forest actually follows our main character named Hazel. She's a teenager. I think she's about 16 in this book, and she actually really likes fairies. She really likes the aspect of who they are. She wants to kind of be one, and she wants to like be a knight, and she wants to fight against evil, and she's just a really interesting main character. And so this book is actually in third person, and so we get Hazel's perspective for the most of the part, but after once in a while we will get someone else's perspective. So like, for example, we might get Ben's perspective, who is actually Hazel's brother. And he's actually a very interesting character. He's actually gay. And so during this entire book, we actually read about some hardships that he actually goes through. And so it's really interesting to see his point of view once in a while and see how like all these hardships are coming on to him. And he's actually like really interested in a couple boys that he's dated, and there's like history there, and so we do get a little bit of that aspect in the book as well. So Ben's best friend is named Jack, and Jack is a fairy. He's actually been living with the town since he was born. At one point his mother actually switched Jack's baby body with his now brother's Carter's, and so his mother actually found out and realized, because you know, baby switching, and she actually ended up keeping Jack because of this. And so Jack has been living with their family pretty much since he was a baby, and no one's really questioned it. They look exactly the same for some reason, but I would pretty much think that was just because maybe the fairies put some magic on them or something like that, but they look pretty much identical, at least identical enough to be related. There are 3 characters that we pretty much follow the entire book that are pretty much collected around them. And the one thing that we do follow is the prince himself. So the prince has been freed, right? And the reason he's been freed, obviously, is because Hazel, she freed him. And we do learn that in the book. I mean, she doesn't know right away that she did it. She came home and she had some glass inside her hands and her like legs and stuff, and she was bleeding still, and we pretty much knew that she did it. Am I right? The prince has been freed and Hazel did it, but we don't know why she did it until obviously the end. Overall, this book was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed reading about it. I really enjoyed reading in Jack's perspective. I thought he was a very interesting character, and I enjoyed his character pretty much the most, and I liked to read about him the most, and I thought he was really interesting, and I really liked the like fairy mortal aspect of him, and I actually really would have enjoyed this book if it was like in his perspective mostly. We do get like a small snippet of his point of view, but it wasn't enough for me. And every once in a while Hazel will like eavesdrop on him, and we'll get like to see a little bit of how he actually is as a fairy, but it doesn't happen as often and as I would have liked it to. But I did really enjoy his character probably the most. I really liked the relationship that Hazel and him had. Like, I pretty much knew that they were going to be a thing. I was kind of hoping it would be her and the prince because that's actually really different, and I thought it would be a little bit more of a twist in the story, but that's not how it went. The actually bigger twist was that he is with Ben, which is nice because Ben has been wanting someone to date and to love, and they actually both love each other, which is cool, and I'm pretty happy for them. The twist that like Hazel is a knight at night and that she's been doing these things that she didn't know about and all this other different stuff. And I thought it was a different type of twist to the bargain that I thought she was going to end up giving him, but I pretty much knew that someone was like taking over her in the night and she was doing all these different objectives that she didn't know she was doing, and it was pretty obvious because she was having these feelings of doing things that she wasn't doing. And then like whenever she broke the coffin and she kind of thought she might have done it, but she didn't know if she did it, it was kind of obvious that something was going on, that she was doing something at night that we didn't know about and that she didn't know about. And so that was just something that I pretty much knew was coming, but it was nice to read about and nice to have an actual explanation of why she was doing these things. Pretty much everything was kind of foreshadowing in this novel. In the beginning there was lots of foreshadowing, like the foreshadowing of like Hazel's bargain. We didn't know what it was for, but we all knew something was going to happen with it. And so I really liked this book. I thought it was very interesting. I said interesting probably like 20 million times, but this book was interesting. That's probably the word to describe this book, was that it was interesting. I really liked the characters and the plot, and I really liked the world that Holly Black created. And I mean, it wasn't too like complicated. There wasn't a lot of like hardships as much, but that's because it was a standalone novel. You have to kind of put that into perspective when you're reading if this was probably like a series book, I would have probably given it like a 4-star rating, because I expect more out of it because it is a first book in a series, but this is actually a standalone novel, and so it gets like a 4.5/5 stars. And yeah, so Holly Black is actually a really great author, and her writing is actually very nice, very beautiful. She describes things really well. All her characters are very well developed. The world, the plot, it was all great. I would recommend this book, obviously, but I think you have to actually really enjoy reading about the fairy world to actually get into this book, because fairy worlds are very good. Like, they're good to read about, but it really depends on the author and what kind of plot they're going with. And sometimes they can be good and sometimes they can be bad. And I think this is actually a really good fairy book. That book and Sarah J. Maas's book that I read last week, good fairy books. I actually really enjoy both of them, and I'm really happy I picked up both of them, and I thought they were both really good. So fairy books are a good thing to read about if you really like that type of dark, eerie type of world. I think fairy books are a really interesting one to pick up. Alright, so that's pretty much everything I have for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and it lets me know if you like the reviews I give to you. I also wrote a written review on this if you want to read it. It is non-spoily, so you may read it and get a little bit more in depth. I did pretty much cover everything I wrote in it though, so I don't think you need to. But if you want, you can look at my Goodreads and follow me on it, or add me, you know, I don't mind. And you can like look at what I'm reading. I post more frequently on there when I'm reading than I do like on Tumblr. That's a good site to look on me for if you want to know all my reading things. Please leave a comment below if you read this book and if you really enjoyed it, because I'd love to hear from you. I love seeing what you guys have been reading and what you're liking about the books that I'm reading, because, you know, book discussions, right? That's the point of these videos, so we discuss the book in the comment section below. And so if you'd like, you also may subscribe if you want to watch my videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, because that's when I put my content out for you guys. And so yeah, thanks for watching. Bye!